Most organizations with a serious call handling problem don't know that they have one. Not because they're not paying attention, but because the problem doesn't announce itself. It shows up in scattered places. A complaint here, a missed booking there, a Monday backlog that never actually cleans up. Each symptom looks like its own thing. The connection between them never gets made. What I'm going to do in this video is give you 5 specific things to check. Not a general framework, 5 concrete signs. If you recognize more than 2 of them in your operation, the root cause is probably something you haven't fully diagnosed yet. My name is Daria. I spend a lot of time looking at how organizations handle inbound call volume. Hotels, healthcare practices, property firms, contact centers. And one pattern keeps showing up. The expensive problem are usually the ones nobody has put a name to yet. Let's do that today. Before the 5 signs, one framing point. Call handling problems are hard to diagnose because they tend to look like other problems. High call volume looks like a staffing problem. Low conversation on inbound calls look like a sales problem. Patient or guest complaint looks like a training problem. Staff burnout looks like a culture problem. All of those diagnoses are partially correct and mostly wrong. They are describing the symptom of a broken call handling system and treating the consequences instead of the cause. The 5 signs I'm about to describe are not the problem itself. They're the signs that appear when the problem is present. If you can see them, the underlying issue is almost certainly still there, generating all of them at the same time. With that in mind, sign number 1. You don't know what percentage of calls your organization answers outside of business hours. Not an estimate, not pretty good I think, the actual number. If I ask you right now, what percentage of inbound calls that arrive between 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. are answered by a person who can actually help the caller? Would you be able to tell me? Most people can't. And the reason is revealing. Your PMS or CRM tracks the calls that came in and were handled. It does not surface the calls that came in and went. Missed calls don't generate data entries in most systems unless you specifically set them up to do so. The absence is invisible. So the answer rate stays unknown. Not because it's a difficult number to calculate, but because nobody has looked for it. And what doesn't get measured doesn't get managed. Here's why it matters. The after-hours window is the most in most industries where your high-intent callers are calling. Someone is calling a hotel at 7 p.m. on a Thursday has made a decision already. Someone calling a clinic about a referral at 6:30 p.m. is working around their day job to get this done. Someone calling about a property viewing on a Saturday morning is ready to move. If you don't know your answer rate in that window, you don't know what you're losing in it. And you're almost certainly losing something. Sign 2, you've added headcount to handle call volume, and the queue is roughly the same place it was before. This one is particularly recognizable in healthcare and high-volume customer service settings, but it shows up across all of the industries. The pattern. Call volume exceeds capacity. A hire is approved, the queue shortens for 4 to 6 weeks, then it fills back up. Another hire is approved, the cycle repeats itself. If this sounds familiar, it means something specific. The thing generating your call volume is not a problem of a capacity. Adding capacity to a not capacity problem produces temporary solution and no lasting change. The most common root cause of this pattern is avoidable contacts. Calls that exist not because customers have a new problem, new need, but because something earlier in your process didn't work, didn't resolve the situation. A confirmation that wasn't sent, a callback that was promised but never happened, a result available but not communicated. These calls return regardless of how many people you add to answer them. If you've hired to solve this and the needle hasn't moved, hiring is not the answer. Something upstream is generating the volume. That is worth knowing before the next headcount approval. Sign 3. Monday morning means working through a backlog of weekend missed calls, and that backlog rarely converts. This one is almost universal. The weekend creates a dead zone in most call operations. Either calls go unanswered, or they go to voicemail, or they go to a night manager who has other things to manage. By Monday morning, there is a list. Your team works through the list, they call back, some people answer, most don't, or they've already moved on. The conversion rate on those callbacks, 48 to 72 hours after the original call, is close to 0 for high-intent inquiries. Here's what that means in practice. The people who called on Saturday morning ready to book a room or to confirm a viewing or ask about an appointment, they're not waiting for your call back. They resolve the situation somewhere else on Saturday afternoon. The callback on Monday is a formality that occasionally turns into a deal, but mostly confirms that the window has closed. The Monday triage exists because the weekend coverage doesn't. If it's fixture of your week, the coverage model is a problem. Sign number 4. When someone calls your business after hours, they reach a voicemail box or an IVR menu rather than a person who can help them. Call your own organization right now, not during business hours, at 7 p.m. or Saturday morning. What happens? This is a very simple test that most organizations have never run on themselves. And the result is almost always surprising, even for the teams that know that they're set up well. Voicemail feels like a coverage, but it isn't. Research on caller behavior is consistent. Most high-intent callers, the ones who've made a decision and the one who is trying to close it, don't leave voicemail. They end the call. They open a new tab, they go to your competitor or a booking agent. IVR feels like a coverage. It isn't really. 40% of callers hang up within 20 seconds of reaching the IVR menu, 90% have left within 60 seconds. In that 60-second window, the menu has deflected the call without resolving it. The caller hasn't gone away, they've just gone somewhere else. If the answer to what happens when someone calls us at 7 p.m. is anything other than a person who can help them answers, you're losing calls in that window. The question is how many and what there was. Sign 5. Your team has tried IVR or BPO or additional headcount or more than one of those things, and the call handling problem hasn't not meaningfully been resolved or improved. This is the most important sign because it tells you something specific about the nature of the problem. If you tried multiple solutions and none of them have stuck, you're almost certainly fixing the wrong problem and treating the symptoms. Each solution addressed one surface manifestation of the issue. Too long queues, after hours gaps, inconsistent quality, but didn't touch the thing generating all of them. If your team has tried IVR, BPO and hiring more staff and the problem is still there, the diagnosis has been wrong. That is worth sitting with, not as criticism of the decisions that were made. Those decisions were reasonably responses to visible symptoms, but as a signal that the underlying cause hasn't been even identified yet. The underlying cost in most cases is a structural one, a call operation that was designed to handle calls reactively with a mechanism for reducing the amount of unnecessary volume or capturing high-intent callers outside standard hours. Patching the system with headcount or technology doesn't change the architecture. It just makes the architecture slightly more capable of producing the same results. If you recognize 2 or more of those signs in your organization, you're not dealing with isolated problems. You're dealing with one problem that's expressing itself in multiple places. The good news is that the one problem has only one root cause, and identifying it changes the economics of fixing it significantly because you stop spending on partial solutions that address the surface and start thinking about what would actually change the system. The place to start is the diagnosis I mentioned in sign 1. Find out what your actual after-hours call volume looks like and what percentage of those calls are being answered by someone who can help the caller. The number, when you have it, reframes everything else. I've made a couple of videos that go deeper on specific parts of this. One on the after-hours booking gaps in the hotel, another on what adding headcount doesn't fix call volume in healthcare system. I'll link them below. So, 5 signs that your phone system is costing more than it appears to. 1. You can't name your after-hours answer rate. 2. Call volume hasn't moved despite adding headcount. 3. Monday morning starts with a missed call backlog that rarely converts. 4. After-hours callers hit voicemail or a menu, not a person. 5. You've tried more than one solution and the problem is still there. If you recognize 2 or more of those, the underlying cause is probably still unaddressed. I have a question for the comments. Which of these 5 is the one your team has been living with for the longest? I'm curious how many people are sitting on sign 5. They tried everything version. Drop it below. If this was useful, please subscribe to my channel. New video is coming every week on call operation and the cause that doesn't show up in any report until someone really looks for them. Thank you and goodbye.